I'm Shrishti Saha for MPSF Sports, and joining me today is the men's volleyball head coach at Vanguard, Brian Rofer. 2022 to 2023 was his debut season as the Lions head coach, where he guided the team to their first NAIA team championship since 2015. Spending 22 years at the top men's volleyball assistant at UCLA, he not only guided the Bruins to six NCAA championship wins, but also contributed to mentoring 33 All-Americans. Brian was also named the AVCA Assistant Coach of the Year in 2012. Firstly, congratulations on your spectacular 3-0 win against Simpson University last night. What changes in practice or in-game adjustments do you think have contributed to help you achieve this comeback?
Well, it's nothing that we do different in practice. Our goal this whole year is just to get better every day. I mean, we have a inexperienced uh, group of athletes on the team, and we came up against the number one team in the country last week, and we really didn't change any of our expectations coming into this game. We just continued doing what we do in practice, getting better every day, and learning how to compete. I mean, we have a lot of players that don't have that experience. Some of our guys were playing only high school volleyball a year ago. We have one player who's started against the number one team in the country last year who was just finishing up his high school basketball season a year ago. So, the learning curve is what it is. And, you know, I don't want to change my procedure, the process at all, week to week, match to match. It's good. We go and play the top team in the country, and then we play somebody that we can be much more competitive against. And, it's the growth of the sport ultimately that's happening because Long Beach scheduled us, which obviously helps our program, and us scheduling Simpson helps their program and our program. So ultimately, it's the growth of the sport, but our process doesn't really change in the gym.
Great. So in your second set against Simpson, there were some struggles with serving, hitting errors, and mental mistakes. What were some specific adjustments that you think the team made to reset and regain the momentum to play well in the next set?
Well, it's just a matter of bringing players in that I trust going into that situation. Every match, every day, every practice, there's to be players struggling, and that adversity is what we have to overcome. There was things that I may have been able to done earlier in that set to change things around, but I want to see how the players compete in adverse situations and see if guys are ready to come off the bench. Um, so the mental errors, a couple unforced hitting errors, a lot of serving, struggling from the service line, that will organically take care of itself over the course of the set. Unfortunately, we had some players come in and step up, and it changed the momentum of the game. So it wasn't any wizardry or anything that I did. It's pretty much all on the athletes being ready to go in there and compete, and support their teammates. When one guy jumps in the tank, we want the guys pulling them out, not jumping in after them.
So speaking of changing momentum, Logan Finley came in and he made a huge difference, I think, in the second set. How do you work with players, generally speaking, for the whole season to help them stay mentally prepared that to make that kind of impact and to just bounce back?
Well, it's the process in practice. They're competing every day, and we're in a situation at Vanguard where a lot of programs may be 14, 15 deep. We have a lot of guys on our roster, but they're still basically learning how to play this game. So I try to put these guys in the most competitive situations as I can during practice. And we've had this discussion at the beginning of the year that, no one wants to accept any role. They all want to start. Everyone wants to start. Everyone wants to be on the court. Otherwise, why are we playing these sports? But we try to get to the point where there will be roles. You have to accept the responsibilities of the role, but you don't have to necessarily accept the role. And I think our guys are starting to understand that. Logan Finley, especially, he's been with me, the whole time I've been here. So he's starting to understand how I think, and there's that trust process where a lot of the guys that have been with me the whole time, they trust how I coach, and I trust them as players. And once you get that, it's just a special relationship that you have with your team, that you don't have guys complaining that they're not playing, but they will go in there and they will give everything they have. And opportunity is opportunity, and they understand the opportunities will rise. They have to take full advantage of it, and good things always happen.
And do you do anything specific to help build that trust, or is it just how it will naturally fall?
It's just it organically takes place. I mean, I just yell at them a lot, and it just happens. So no, it's understanding that I'm a highly competitive individual, and the culture as such isn't something that I'm trying to change. It's something I want these guys to bring in on their own. So you can't make a competitive individual who's not innately competitive. It's like having a 40-inch jump. You can't have someone who has a 19-inch jump suddenly have a 40-inch jump. Um, so when you start identifying highly competitive individuals and you know what buttons to push, um, that's what happens, and it's just it. Like I said again, it organically happens on its own. These guys are competitive, and when they understand how to bring that out and how to use it to the best of their ability, it works all through practice. It works all through competitions.
So when you have multiple players with similar strengths, so I'm thinking like Braddock Duckworth and Micah Siebesma, who
Mm-hmm.
they're both excellent at blocking. How do you balance their roles to ensure that, each player maximizes their own potential, but doesn't make your team too one-dimensional?
Um, I have, well, there's Braddock Duckworth, there's Micah, and then there's Nick Dvorak. All three of those, um, are pretty much rotating into those spots. Micah pretty much holds that one spot because he pulls down the right statistics, and that's how I kind of make my decisions statistically. But until you have a large enough sample size to make those decisions, and you look at who we're playing against, because like I said, we go from the number one team in the country, and then last night we're playing a very competitive, scrappy Simpson team, but they're not one of the stronger teams. If they were in the MPSF, it's just a different level. So you can't take the sample sizes of that. So you look a lot in practice, and you're constantly letting them know where we have to improve. And I after watching practices and I remember certain things, and you make notes of certain things, mental notes. So you know pretty much how to put guys in certain situations. And also, some guys you can let stay in there a little bit longer, and the adversity, they can't handle it, and you got to get them out of there and put somebody else in, and they've learned from that experience. So it's just right now it's a lot of trial and error, to be perfectly honest, but we'll get there. It's just constant competition, opportunity competition.
So now I have some questions about your upcoming match against number 8, Stanford. So they're known for their strong defense. I know you said that you're not going to change specific things, and your strategies, but do you have like a different way to approach this matchup to break their defense and set your offensive players, or are you just following the same strategies you've been following this season?
We pretty much right now, again, it's not athletic ability. My guys are athletes, and I say that because there's a difference between being athletic and being an athlete. My guys
Mhm.
are highly competitive. They don't have the experience, and some of them are just figuring out how to play at this level. So I can't overwhelm this team really with a lot of strategy, a lot of system. I think in this country overall, there's a little bit too much um, emphasis on systems and schemes and all that kind of stuff, where the players don't really learn how to recognize the patterns and what's going on with their opponent, because we're telling them as coaches, okay, we're going to do this. And they're so focused on, okay, I got to do this, that, there may be a hitter coming right at them, but they're taking off because they're in this certain scheme or this certain pattern. And at some point, it's, pass, set, athlete, athlete, athlete. Um, and so for me to start putting that burden on them right now, a lot of people say, well, it makes it easier for the team because you're telling them what to do and they don't have to think. But that's not what we want from our players. We want our players to understand dynamic situations. And if it's over systematic and too many schemes, they don't understand, they don't learn how to play in a dynamic way. And you're pretty much become one dimensional, like you were talking about earlier. And I don't want that to happen. So my emphasis will be this year, especially, is what's happening on our side of the net. And we will learn how to play and understand how the volleyball game works and gamesmanship and all that comes into play. So no, I'm not going to really change anything. We'll watch film so these guys know kind of what's going on there, but I'm not going to put them into any system right now. They can put themselves in that. They can talk to each other, and that's the important part is they're learning. And I kind of have to force myself to step back from that situation and allow that learning and the failure to happen, so good things will happen in the future.
So, do you have any rituals or routines that you guys are going to be doing before your game tonight? That,
I'm not a ritual guy. I'm
yeah.
not a routine guy. It's you know a lot of coaches talk about players chemistry, ritual, getting ready, all this, be louder, all this energy. For me, that has to come from within the team. Otherwise, it's not really a passion coming from their hearts. It's coming from what they think you want to see. I mean, coaches have to understand we're a huge part of an athlete's life every single day. I was there one time, and I understand I control a lot how they feel 24/7. And the farther away from I get from that controlling part, the more they're going to enjoy the experience of an athlete and themselves as a team and the camaraderie. It's they don't have to like me, they understand that. I don't have to like them, and they understand that. But they have to understand how the dynamics of the team work. And if it becomes them against me, and they work together as a group to get to the goal that we are striving for, then it works, and they all understand at the end of the day that you know I just want them to be the best version of themselves they can be on and off the court. And a lot of that comes by allowing them to figure things out on the court and in life in general.
That's a great perspective. So we've been talking to Brian Rofer, Vanguard's men volleyball head coach. The Lions have a busy weekend. As I previously mentioned, they're playing number 8 Stanford tonight at 7:30 p.m., followed by another match against Stanford tomorrow at 3 p.m. Coach, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course, we look forward to watching your matches this weekend. For MPSF Sports, I'm Shrishti Saha.